Hello, everybody. It must be the first Monday of the month because it is time for Maw of Mike and what we call lots of alliterations. We got a going on here tonight right there. So welcome to the Maw of Mike for October. I am Mr. Michael Curtis, the Director of Product Development for Dungeon Crawl Classics here figuratively at Goodman Games. How y'all doing? I hope that you are enjoying the fact that we are now officially in fall here in the Northern Hemisphere. It's getting cold. I'm wearing 3 pairs of shorts right now just to keep myself warm through the hour. As we were saying, there's stuff falling on the roof, which I think a shark blew up here from Florida. So it's interesting times we're all living into. So I hope you're all doing well tonight. So fall is always welcome. You are correct, Sky, too. This is especially after this past 2 years. So I'm enjoying it very much. So if this is your first time tuning into the show, welcome. And basically what this is the monthly recap of kind of everything that's going on in the world of Dungeon Crawl Classics and the assorted, Dungeon Crawl Classics family lines, kind of bring you up to speed on what's coming out this month and, what's in the status of stuff that's been in the hopper for a while and such. And we'll just kind of go over that. And I've got 3 special guests coming on the show tonight to talk about various different Dungeon Crawl Classics related stuff. So we should be in for a lot of fun tonight. So I'm glad everybody was able to make it. There was some question whether one was not going to be able to make it because we had to wait to see what the Florida power grid was going to do. But luckily, we are all here tonight. So we're just going to bring on our first guest in just a little bit. So I've got. We'll save announcements for the end. That's at least you keep you sticking around for a while, and then that's good for the advertisers. I think. Not that we have advertisers or anything, but all right. Oh, all right. So we'll be back in just a little bit. So just stay on there, and I'll bring on my first guest. Hey, that was quick, wasn't that? All right. So joining me tonight, my first guest, a face that you probably know from other tunings of Maw of Mike and other stuff, Mr. Marzio Muscedere.
That's
Welcome
me.
very much, Marzio.
Thank you very much for having me. Great to be on.
Welcome back.
Thanks. I love being on here. It means I have stuff in the works. That's why I love being on here.
It means you're not focusing on the day job right now. I mean,
yes, exactly.
And talk about geeky stuff. So already people are excited to see you back. So Marzio, why don't you tell me and why don't you tell the people out here in the chat room why I have you on the show? Not just for your presence, but there's an ulterior motive going on here tonight, as in all things Maw of Mike related.
I think because I'm your 7th favorite RPG or our 7th favorite DCC author.
Yeah.
Ninth favorite.
You're one of my top 5 Canadian DCC writers.
That's awesome. True. Top 5 Canadian. I am here because I have done the crazy thing and launched my first ever Kickstarter for a DCC adventure called The Shadows About Hope.
All right.
Yes.
So what is up with that?
Okay. So I'm glad you asked. So The Shadows About Hope is it's over 100 pages of glorious and gritty sword and sorcery adventure. And kind of basically the whole synopsis of the adventure is it deals with a place called the Shadows, which is a vast leagues of dark and brooding forests that loom on the very edge of the civilized world. This is like an aeon-veiled, it's an expanse of aeon-veiled horror. It's rife with mystery, adventure, and death, right? And then perched along this, uncharted area of the world is a place called Fort Hope. And that is a frontier outpost of hardened men and women that make their living there. And the adventure kicks off when a subhuman group of savages from the forest, like I'm talking like, not human, but like Stone Age Neanderthal type people raid Fort Hope, and the adventure kicks off from there. It is completely inspired by Appendix N. I brought it up before. I'll bring it up again. One of the play testers said it was Beyond the Black River meets the 13th Warrior meets The Usual Suspects, because it has it's part wilderness adventure, part dungeon delve, and part investigative mystery. So I kind of threw everything. I threw everything in there.
I was going to say those are 2 things that sound. One of these things does not belong here.
Right.
The old Sesame Street thing. Yeah. Yeah.
But I like to. Well, yeah, you're absolutely right. One thing is jarringly like what, but who knows? It works.
Well, I mean, I always find that's the key to good adventure writing is that you always take something completely unexpected and then throw it in there, and people are like, wait a minute, because otherwise they're just like, oh, this is just like the 13th Warrior, but then you're like, wait a minute, wait, why is the head of the subhumans named Kaiser Sosa? What's going on
Yeah,
here? Well,
yeah.
I mean, no, obviously you're a better writer than just to rip off Kaiser Sosa, but you know what I'm going for here.
You just spoiled everything. They're going to look under the first coffee cup and solve the entire adventure now. Great.
Well, the good thing is the Kickstarter is not over yet, so you still have time to go in and change that. So
Yeah, I can. I will. I'll change that. Yeah.
I mean, you didn't send it to me to play test, so I have to give you all this feedback live, on the air and everything. So,
Play testing a 136 page wilderness setting guide / adventures is pretty tough, but I did run it in a dumbed down streamlined version at some different cons over the years. But yeah, I mean, it's more than just an adventure. It has there's a sword and sorcery occupation table in there. There's a new character class called the Brule. There is a full patron write-up including spells. There is like 18 unique wondrous items, a treasure table of 50 items on it. There's over 18 detailed NPCs. So the book, even when you're done with the adventure, you can always like flip back in this book with the random encounters in the shadows and all that. You'll always be able to use this book going beyond the adventure itself. So
okay, well, I mean, it's for 100 pages. I mean, people definitely want to get their money's worth. So I'm
right.
glad it's not going to be like that'll be one of those one and done sort of things. So
Yeah, no, you'll be able to use this book going forward.
Now, you said it kind of starts with Fort Hope. Fort Hope kind of started out as a base type situation, or is that, or maybe is that revealing too much? But well, no. I didn't feel the need to stat up Fort Hope because it's burned to the ground in the first.
No. Fort Hope does get burned. Well, not completely to the ground, but truthfully, a lot of the adventure can take place in Fort Hope. This all depends on where the characters are going to go. Where the players are going to take it. But yes, there are. Fort Hope is stat up. It's the NPCs who live in Fort Hope are as well, and the areas, the buildings within it. And then there's some hints of some other things going on in Fort Hope that a judge can expand upon if they want to. But yeah, there's a good part of the adventure takes place in Fort Hope and then into the shadows as well. I mean, you can there's it's inspired by the classics, right? The big three of Weird Tales, H.P. Lovecraft, Clark Ashton Smith, Robert E. Howard. So there's going to be anything from like there's Lost Races, Eldritch horrors, all that kind of stuff, all the good stuff that you like to read in those stories. So
well, good, because I mean, everything you were describing, it does not sound like it was going to be like the feel good adventure of the year. It wasn't like it wasn't like the Valentine's adventure we did in last year. So.
The Doom that came to Christmas Town, that's the closest to a feel good adventure that I've ever written. But okay. Not to say I can't write one. Who knows? Maybe I'll write.
Who knows? Yeah. That's always the challenge, to write something that's completely outside of your wheelhouse. So, but you don't want to do that on your first Kickstarter. That's
no. No, I do not.
So I was taking a look at the Kickstarter, and you look like you did something smart for a first time Kickstarter. Tell us about your stretch goals.
Oh yeah, my stretch goals. Conan would never have a stretch goal, so that's why I don't have any either. You get everything from the jump. No, we were talking before the show started, about expectations for my Kickstarter, and truthfully, I didn't know what to expect. All my expectations were on my end in terms of I wanted to deliver. I want to deliver a product to the people who pay for it. Simple as that, right? If you back this Kickstarter, I promise you I'll give you the product. And that's what I kind of wanted. I didn't want to mess around on my first Kickstarter ever. I wanted to be, clear cut, try to deliver the best product I can for the most reasonable price, $16. So it's like 1,500 Canadian, but it turns out to $16 US for like over 100 pages worth of adventure and setting guide. And that's it. I have a couple things in there, like some t-shirts and stuff like that. And that's cool. But outside of anything like that, there are no stretch goals. Everything was included from the jump. I just wanted to get this thing out there.
You talk to Dave Beatty before you launch this one. Say, Dave, what should I not do? That's it.
Yeah.
Dave gave you a laundry list. Just don't do this.
I watched Dave age before my eyes. No, Dave's a great guy. I actually wrote an adventure for Weird Frontiers. I don't know when it's coming out, but I've written it. It was submitted a couple years, at least a year ago now, over a year and a half ago. So I'm sure it's coming out once he gets done with all the, delivering the big books. But yeah, no, I didn't have, I give Dave Beatty credit, man. Like that's a scary endeavor to jump into a book that big. I didn't want to mess around on my first one. I didn't want to be that guy that messes things up. Looks like he did a great job, and kudos to him. But I didn't want to. Not on the first one.
I'm not bagging on Dave. Dave knows I love
No,
him.
I know you're not. I know.
I'm sure if Dave could go back in time, we would have been like, I would have probably like streamlined this a little bit more. This is my first major work, everything. So. So it's always good to see somebody, that's, I always kid that I am like I'm like the I used to be the Goodman game test pilot. That there was some crazy idea. They were like, let Mike do it, because this way, if it crashes and burns, Harley will be okay. That
got to save Harley,
protect the talent.
Yeah, save Harley.
So I'm sure David happy to be the test pilot in this case. So so you got what you were saying, you got what, 8 more days left on the
there's just under 8 more days left on the Kickstarter right now. It's been great turnout. I thank you to everybody who's backed it, and people who even just took the time to take a look at it or say some nice things. I appreciate it. But there's 8 days to go, the final 8 days. I'm not going out with a whimper. We're going to go red hand and roaring to the finish line here.
And you're funded, right? I mean, it's all.
I'm almost 300% funded. So
that's what I thought. But
yeah.
But you always want to get your stuff out there. So if you're currently tuned in, or you are going to be watching this later and you have not backed it, please do so. And if you've already backed it, please share on various sorts of social media. Twitter, Instagram, smoke signals, spray painting on the walls of abandoned buildings. Anything else to help get the word around. I do not condone spray painting on abandoned buildings, but
I do condone smoke signals. That sounds like a great idea.
Smoke signals are bound to come back, and eventually everything goes back in fashion. Of course now it'll be, of course, it won't actually be smoke signals now. It will be, like vape signals. It's not hard to do layout and smoke signals, Bob. It's all ephemeral. That's it. It's all. So besides when you're not working on Kickstarter stuff, what else have you been doing, Marzio? He asked as if he didn't know.
So there's I don't know how many things you want me to talk about, but
we tying into stuff. I know we can talk about we can kind of hit the fact that there is you're currently working on a project which involves a letter L in the title. I know that much.
Yes.
So
a little L in a dark toga, maybe. Product that I have to wear a dark toga when I write, and and then there was another shorter adventure for the yearbook.
Yeah. Oh, right? Yeah. Well, this is we're not going to talk about the next yearbook just yet.
Oh, okay. Sorry. I'm living in the future, guys. I apologize.
Yeah, no, because we are in fact I will talk more about the other yearbook, but we'll look into the future. I'll have you back on to talk about that when we're actually in next year when we're waiting on that yearbook.
Safe to say I am writing things for Goodman Games and I'm loving it, and it's coming out really good actually.
Okay, good. Yeah. I'm waiting. I can't wait to see what you come up with.
Oh yeah. Okay. So I can't wait to show you.
Okay, good. All right. So any last words about the Kickstarter, about anything else going on?
Yeah, I mean, by all means, if you like sword and sorcery and kind of like the things I put out in the past, then I promise you're going to like this one. Check it out, give it a look, see, and yeah.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Well, all right. So we're going to take a quick break then. Thank you very much for coming on, Marzio, and telling us all about the Shadows About Hope.
All right, thanks.
I talk about the Shadows About Hope. That's a lot of about going on there. But and we'll be back in just a little bit with our next guest. So stick around. And we are back. We are back with a man who has apparently survived a run-in with the worst non-alcoholic beer on the planet. Joining with me tonight is Mr. Julian Bernick. Julian, welcome to the show. And it's too late to shave. You're already here. That's it.
Yeah, just give my good. What's my good size? Yes.
Turn around.
Yes. All right. Yeah. Right.
There you go. There it is.
If the mic picks me up, I got a new computer. The mic might pick me up.
Okay. So, Julian, welcome on the show.
Thank you. Thank you. And by the way, I remember all this talk about Marzio's Kickstarter reminded me that I hadn't frickin' pledged yet. So I got in there and I did it. And if you want to know how amazing it's going to be, you can start with Death Slaves of Eternity, which is frickin' just packed with stuff. I mean, and it give you an idea of how meaty his stuff is when he's putting this stuff out and doing his labor of love. So go check that out if you don't have it, and then pledge your Kickstarter.
Okay. All right. There you go. Marzio, Venmo him, Venmo Julian,
Yeah.
What
Yeah. Come on,
Send the boy a slice of pineapple pizza on Venmo.
Right. Anchovy, please.
But we're not here to talk about Venmo. We're not here to talk about Marzio's Kickstarter anymore. We're here to talk about something that's much closer to your heart, a little something. Would you like to tell the people why you were here, Julian?
Well, when I was young,
I'm already regretting asking that question. You are here to discuss about the very first module in the Dungeon Crawl Classics Empire of the East line. That's why we're here to talk about it.
Yes, that's right. That's right. Thank you.
And what would that be?
We call it, after a little bit of title roulette, we came down on the hunt for the Howling God.
And that sounds like an awesome adventure, if I do say so myself.
I think so.
So we have a discussion. I was like, you want to come on and talk about the hunt for Howling God? And then I was like, I feel like we've talked about this because we actually very briefly did cover it during Gen Con. But we were doing these little, 15-minute, half-hour little blocks that nobody was watching. So I figure we come on and have like a much bigger audience. So
that's true.
So what is, without ruining the entire adventure, because it's just now it's just reaching stores now. So I can't promise that people can run out and buy this immediately, but within the next week or so they should be able to. So what is up with the hunt for Howling God? So give us kind of the thousand foot overview of it.
Yeah. The let's see. The adventurers have infiltrated a prison where they find out that there is a great artifact in sort of pure Empire of the East tradition that of course the free folk are going to want to get their hands on. The players are going to be members of the free folk. They're going to be the good guys. And so they've got to bust out of prison, get away from the empire that has them in their clutches where they've gone to learn the secret, and travel overland, of which there's kind of a few options and ways that you can get to the sort of the final dungeon crawl. And then of course they got to get their hands on the said artifact.
Mm-hmm. And we don't want to ruin what that artifact is, but suffice to say, it is one of those things that it can change the entire nature of the campaign. Once you get your hands on it, for good or for ill. So yeah. So there was as you said, there's a very nice middle piece of it where it's like although this is having written an adventure in the past where it begins with the characters in prison trope, which is kind of it can be a hackneyed kind of way to kick off an adventure, but like I did it for the Madhouse Meet with the idea of like you immediately break out, and you kind of get the same thing going on with the hunt for the Howling God. Although it begins in prison, like almost immediately it's jailbreak time, and that's when the adventure kicks off. So it's not one of those things where like, oh, we're gonna spend the first hour just role playing in prison, nobody wants that.
So good. I'll just say I played the Madhouse Meet with fun adventure, and I took the head of the character sitting next to me because we didn't have any weapons when we were in the jail, and I used that character's head as a deadly weapon. I was like headbutting people with his head. This was a guy sitting next to me that I'd never seen before in my life. And Jen Brinkman was running the game. This is a Gary Con many years ago. And everybody thought I was kind of a, dick or something. Anyway, especially that guy, but we had fun anyway.
Well, luckily you're not playing in this one.
Yeah, that's true.
Writing this one, so
That's true.
And for what I remember, there's at no point there's no sidebar about encouraging people to use your fellow players' heads as an offensive weapon. So
whatever happens, happens. That's what mighty deeds are for.
That's exactly it's right there. But once you do get the prison break, as you said, that's when it get like player agency returns. You can choose various ways of how we're going to go and go about this, and lots of various different what happens if we go this way, what happens if we go that way. You don't necessarily know until you pick a choice. So this is actually as I mentioned, this is our first actual adventure in the Empire of the East line. So we came out with the Empire of the East source book some years ago, and it was just one of those things is because of things like a pandemic. Like really we didn't get a chance to support it as much as we could. But when it came around to do the reprint, we realized we could fit maybe about 8 more pages of content in. And you were very talented enough to help us out with that. So having you basically created, as we were talking about Marzio, we're talking about home bases and such, and the Empire of the East reprint is basically a home base slash kind of adventuring locale in it, and you've got some rules for healing, and then you've got the awesome the reason we almost didn't need to have an Empire of the East module line, because you have the most useful chart for basically coming up with adventure on the fly, and
Yeah, I really enjoyed the random adventure generator thing. That was a super amount of fun, and you could use it, of course, outside of Empire of the East. It's good for that, but you could easily port it into whatever you wanted, and it'd be a blast. I mean, absolutely, yeah, absolutely true.
So this actually makes you one of the kind of the DCC stable of writers who've written the most stuff for the Empire of the East so far, just because of that fact. So what I mean, obviously I had a lot to do with writing Lankmar, so I know that when you're kind of adapting existing content into like DCC setting, sometimes it can be challenging, or sometimes it could offer any some unique opportunities and stuff. Did you encounter anything like that when you were either writing the stuff for the reprint or for Hunt for the Howling God or anything?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of like Lankmar, there's no clerics, right? But unlike Lankmar, there's no fleet and luck and healing mechanic and that kind of stuff. So it's a little different in terms of trying to structure an adventure that has no healing mechanic in it, or that you might have to actually customize a healing mechanic for the adventure, right? Of course, we did have some suggestions, pretty brief, but we covered some high-level suggestions in that extra Empire of the East supplement we did for that, and that's got some ideas in it that you can, if you want to run some, you can take a look at. But that's something you got to be aware of, because most of our dungeon crawls are kind of built with those healing type assumptions in them, and if you're really going to not have that, it could really structurally change stuff.
Right. I mean, you can literally you get like a TPK, like before you even get out of prison if you're not careful, because you don't have that lay on hands thing to back yourself up with when you get into trouble. So
correct. So you've got to, and you've kind of got to make that clear to people up front too, that the cleric's not going to rush in the 4th round of combat and heal everybody either. So you're going to have to play pretty tactically and do that kind of stuff.
Right. I think that's one of the things is that because when you're dealing with like an established setting, it's always you kind of you kind of go through it and you try to figure out what makes this unique, what can I draw upon this that differentiates it from the other stuff out there. And some of the stuff is like Lankmar is the setting itself, not even like the rules mechanics, but it is very, very specific. Like like a Fafhrd Grey Mouser adventure, compared to like anything that like Tolkien wrote, or or even like Howard or anything like that. It's got own sort of feel and vibe. Dying Earth, you've written stuff for the Dying Earth, the same thing there. Vance is very different background and stuff. And I think with Empire of the East, that's actually kind of a challenge, because you only have like the 3 novels you're working with, so you don't have like that huge body of work that you get with like Lankmar or anything, and you don't have that huge depth that you have with like the Dying Earth. Although there's not that same amount of there's I think roughly about the same amount of Dying Earth material. I mean, because there's what 4 novels and roughly about that. So, but aside from, but the Empire of the East stuff, it's very vanilla fantasy, except for the fact that, it is post-apocalyptic vanilla fantasy. But even then, it's not like, Mutant Crawl Classics or, Gamma World or, Road Warrior. The catastrophes happen so far and that like everything is resettled. So I guess, so it could be almost Tolkien-esque, except for the fact that, A, we don't have any healing. so we have to make smart decisions, and B, well, occasionally we get our hands on a tank.
Yeah, right. Well, the great thing about Empire of the East stuff, I think, I mean, the kind of the most challenging aspect that the world is pretty constrained. I mean, really unlike Lankmar, where at least they're meeting ghouls and they're going underwater, and they do all this crazy stuff in the Fafhrd and Mouser books, but in Dying Earth they go into space and God only knows. But Empire of the East, the funny thing about it is it's so close to that kind of vanilla fantasy, or I don't want to say vanilla, but kind of straight ahead, straightforward thing, that you can easily adapt it into any DCC campaign that could handle having a tank or whatnot in it. So whatever, if having clerics makes it too easy, just make them first level instead of second level or whatever, it doesn't matter, So I think the plus side is it's really adaptable to most, kind of sword and sorcery or, dungeon crawlish type games really easily without blowing people's assumptions away,
Right. Yeah. So, I mean, I think it's I've always, after I had like reread the books, because once I basically took this job, I realized that I have to kind of get myself reacquainted with everything. I was just like, this could be challenging, but I think you did a really good job of kind of bringing that to and making it feel like Empire of the East. I know we sent it to the Saberhagen estate, and they were very happy with it. They didn't really have any requests or anything. I think the one comment is like, I wish there was more leather wings. I think that was what they were happy that there were some there. So I think we were okay.
Yeah, leather wings, the way they're statted in the book, they are really tough. So I was like, oh, these guys are going to be like getting out and then going, oh, like, and they're buying, oh, yeah. So, yeah, I mean, no, I really wanted, and this is maybe the big thing that I worked on. I tried to really get a feel, of the Empire of the East. You're the good guys, which definitely goes against my grain for those who know me.
Sorry.
But you are the good guys, and you are, that's kind of a base assumption, and it's a kind of a Star Wars feel. You're the Rebel Alliance, you're fighting the Empire. And
very, very Star Wars,
Yeah, so I use that a little bit as a touchstone too, so that this is going to be very straightforward stuff. You're the good guys, but you're definitely in an Appendix N weird fantasy, dark fantasy world. It's not, unicorns and fairies and stuff like that. I mean, it's dangerous, it's got mutants, and it's got all kinds of stuff. So I still could play with my mutant horror thing,
Yeah. And I think actually that the Star Wars analogy is probably, that's actually like a good way to think about it for future down the line stuff, is because you can always kind of start bringing in that somewhat gray morality. You could get like Solo-esque, the Mandalorian type stuff, who are kind of working on the perimeter of the, so I mean,
Mike, there's an island city. The Empire has an island city called the Death Island.
okay.
And the heroes are going to ride their little skiffs into the Death Island, and they're going to have to get a crossbow bolt into a little target thing. Once they, what?
I love it. I mean, if the Star Wars universe was able to use that plot 3 times, so I don't think there's no reason why we can't.
Right? Exactly. So why not?
We only use it once. We're already ahead of the curve, right? So, all right. We'll put that on the back burner.
Okay. All right.
All right. So that's Hunt for the Howling God. If you've not pre-ordered it, you can pre-order on the website right now, and you should be able to pick it up in the store soon. And I'm willing to bet you can pick it up probably at Gamehole Con at the end of this month. So Julian, you are within roughly a stone's throw of Gamehole. Are you heading up to Madison for Gamehole this year?
Yeah, I absolutely am. And yeah, I'm looking forward to that. It's actually just a few weeks away, which
Mhm.
means I got to get writing. Um,
What are you running? Are you having anything specific, or are you doing one of yours, kind of like, what do you guys want to do, and then kind of go from there?
no, I have two new adventures, like just kind of for fun, running type adventures that I've worked on. And one is kind of a Regency Gothic horror thing. So it's set in like 1780, and it's actually, I think it's a good setup. The Archbishop has said that you have to go collect the head of a nobleman. So
Mhm.
you go to, he's a bad person. He's a libertine. He's killed people and ritual sacrifice and all that. So you go to get his head, and you find out fairly early on that in fact, he's cut his own head off and he's going to give you his head, but getting out with the head is the hard part. So, so that's one adventure. And then,
As long as the name's not Vecna, right?
no, well,
Okay.
no. And then I'm running a hubris adventure, and that I've got, that I'm kind of in the midst of putting together and writing, and just getting all notes together and pre-gens and everything else. And that's kind of a little more of a Western theme thing. It's going to have a bank heist in it, and then some hex crawling at the end, and that kind of stuff. So I've never done any, messing around with hubris before. So I love the classes in there. It's been on my gaming bucket list for a long time. So I want to go nuts and with the Blood Witch and the Murder Machine and all that stuff.
And cons are a great place to scratch that wish list thing. Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Absolutely.
absolutely.
Because you can't convince people at home to commit to a prolonged campaign. You can at least get it 4 hours or 8 hours depending on how much you want to run it at a convention. So
yeah, certainly.
sounds good. So, all right, man. Well, I appreciate you coming on. Any final words about Hunt for Howling God, Game Hole, pizza, anything, non-alcoholic dark beer?
Oh geez. If anybody knows a non-alcoholic dark beer that they really love, please email me at Julian_Bernick@yahoo.com. I'll put it in the chat. I mean, my God. Anyway, and that's pretty much it. Mike, thank you for having me on.
No problem, man. Thank you for coming on. All right, so we'll be back in just a little bit with our last guest, and we're going to talk about buggy stuff. So, all right, so just stick around. Hey everybody! I hope you had time to run out and grab pizza, because this is a very pizza themed episode of whatever the show is.
Where's Joey Royale?
Right. So at least the chat is all pizza and beer brought focused tonight. So everybody's getting hungry over there. So all right, but I digress as usual. So joining with me, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Bob Brinkman. Bob, welcome to the show yet again.
Hey everyone, nice to be seen.
We have never met. Now I want you to guess what's it. Yeah, right. Bob, thank you for joining us from a particularly soggy Florida at this point. I'm glad that you have power and you guys escaped the devastation as well as you have and everything. So
We came out very, very lucky.
I gave Bob the option before the hurricane rolled up his way. It's like, do you want to skip the show just on the off chance that you don't have power? But Bob was determined to be on. So here we are. So and you have come because you've actually got to write something and not convert something recently. So
I know I'm not sure which blasphemous altar that I put the correct offering onto, but it worked out.
Yeah, it was. I felt guilty, so this was your reward. This is basically
I'll take it,
because I've been on the other side of this. So I know what it's like. So, Bob, why are you here? What are you here to talk about?
Well, primarily I'm here to talk about Night of the Bog Beast, which is the 8th entry in the horror line.
What we used to call the Halloween adventure, which has since now become DCC horror number 8. Oh, so the Night of the Bog Beast, and you pitched the Night of the Bog Beast for me to me, and I said, you know what, I'm getting a lot of EC comic, eerie, creepy off of this. So was I correct? I mean, I read it, but I'm sure the people at home.
Oh yeah.
What is this? I think I know what this is, but am I not? So.
Well, I drew upon a lot of my favorite things, so I got to draw on like Margaret St. Clair's short story Brenda and Theodore Sturgeon's It. Both are classic sort of shambling monster stories, the old EC comics and Creepy Magazine were things actually referenced in the pitch. And particularly special for me, growing up, I was a huge comic book fan, and my father and I never really connected on that, but I had found out there was one comic that he read back in the 50s, which was The Heap, back in like 52, 53. And so this ties all of those things together in a nice Legend of Boggy Creek bow.
Yeah, it's very funny you mentioned the Heat, because I have a friend who is a huge Man-Thing fan, and I'm a big Swamp Thing fan. So we've been having an ongoing argument for years, to the point where I was trying to prove which came first, and then I realized that of course they both are ripping off the Heap, and then I also found out both of them were roommates at one point.
Yes.
So they simultaneously ripped off the Heap. So there we go. So it's I'm not saying you're ripping off the Heap, but I'm saying that you have joined a long line of people inspired by boggy bog creatures. Boba Fett, inspired by Boba Fett. That's what we are.
Well, and I wanted to have sort of that rural, dark, stormy vibe, which, boy, I got really familiar with in the past week. But my deadline was pre-Ian. So, and so, yeah, especially with like Creepy Magazine and those 70s faux documentaries, I wanted to encapsulate that entire feeling and drop the players right into the middle of it. It was a lot of fun.
So without giving too much away, especially since it's not out on stores yet, but what is kind of the overarching? What can you tell us about the plot of Night of the Bog Beast, aside from there's a knight involved in a bog beast? You know,
There is a location. It's too small to call it even a village. It's more of an enclave of a few families out in the swamps. And something has been coming out at night and dragging people away. And there's a feeling of urgency as things are getting worse. So as the PCs are punting down through the bayous along that edge, they get waved in by villagers who, one, want to keep them alive, and two, are hoping that the PCs will help keep them alive. And we tie in a lot of family history, role play opportunities, and good old fashioned oral tradition storytelling.
Right. There's definitely an element of the Southern Gothic in it, you know. I mean, but you know, there's also kind of like the kind of the American hoodoo tradition as well. So you know, so it's got a lot going for it. You know?
Oh, we've got witches, we've got yig cultists, we have all sorts of things. I think one of the lines in it is, with all these people throwing their hoodoo around, eventually the bayou just woke up.
There you go.
So you have sort of that grand legend tradition.
It is very. Jan is complaining about kudzu. That's it.
Yeah, oh, sorry, yeah, Jan. But,
so
I gotta deny you there.
So yeah, I mean, I obviously I not only was like the eerie comic, you know, vibe and stuff, and you know, you quoted Margaret St. Clair and such going on with this, but yeah, I kind of dabbled in these dark waters myself with the Nest of Snakes, which I'm going to invoke Gabe Beatty's name again here in the North Hour, but you know, I was kind of going with that same vibe, very much that bayou Southern Gothic thing or that. So actually, I think you can actually, that's the reading Night of the Bog Beast. You could run that as straight DCC, or if you wanted to run that using weird. What are we calling it? Weird Frontiers.
Yes. Rewind that. It's now Weird Frontiers.
Weird Frontiers. You know, you can actually do like a you know, a mini campaign. You know, like the Swamp Foot campaign. That's it. Like, you know, they go.
You could even set the base of the Shutter Mountains.
There you go. So yeah. So the let's see. So I mean, we're dealing with a lot with we're dealing a lot with, like, questions about what's going on, the mysteries of the swamp. So there is but hey, we keep coming back to the same thing, as Marzio was talking about, the usual suspects. So we have the investigation going on in his campaign, and this is also, there's the investigation element. This is not just a monster hunt.
Yeah, this is not just like a hex crawl or a bug hunt. There's definitely investigation to be had. There are locations to unearth, old stories to find the truth of, and maybe a few people to lean on for facts.
Yeah.
When you're dealing with, small children go missing in the swamp, and sometimes they come back and sometimes they don't.
Right. There's a very interesting, without giving anything away, there's a not I'm not saying not reality horror, but there is definitely something else going on, which is, outside of that, which is like this which is this nice little extra veneer of weirdness as they are exploring things, and they're like, wait a minute, what's, huh? Who? What? I don't want to say anything more about that, but just when you think about what's going on, just when you think what's happening, you realize that there's another element that might be going on that, if you're paying attention, you might pick up. So I think
nice little veneer of weirdness was also my nickname in college. So yeah, I wanted to put in a lot of layers to this. If you're not going to do a traditional dungeon adventure, you really owe it to the players to put in depth and layers for them to dig through and draw conclusions from, whether they be right or wrong, and have some fun, since they're not confined by four walls most of the time. There's a few walls in there.
Right. And and one of the advantages of this being in one of the horror adventures in the line, you don't necessarily feel the need to pull any punches either. It's DCC is deadly, but we do kind of realize that we kind of want the majority of the player characters to survive, so they can do another adventure, which so we can sell another adventure. But with the horror line, that can be, we're just going to do this as a one shot, kind of like Call of Cthulhu. It's like, you can run a Call of Cthulhu campaign, but you have to make allowances.
Well, and I'm a big fan of both horror in role-playing games and investigation in role-playing games. Right? You mentioned Death of Snakes. I did the Malevolent 7 for Weird Frontiers, and that's another investigative, get to the root of things before everything bad happens at once sort of adventure. I'm fond of those, because it gives players an incentive other than just, well, I'm hoping to get some XP so I can level. Now it's more, well, if this town gets destroyed, we might not get out of here alive. Or in this case, how are we going to find our way out of the swamp if everyone that can tell us how to get out is dead?
Right. There's something. I don't know. I mean, smarter people than I have probably come up with it, but I came up with this independently, if that is the case. But I was trying to break down and explain, because I was running a Call of Cthulhu game for people who weren't. Some of them knew about it, but they weren't. They were more used to like the hack and slash stuff. So I had to kind of explain, just basically how a Call of Cthulhu adventure works. And by that I said basically there are three phases to every Call of Cthulhu or adventure, which is there's investigation, where you go around and you're doing the groundwork. You're trying to talk to people and going through the archives and everything. And then there's exploration, which is you're actually out on the street and you're checking out like the creepy old house or whatever, and that eventually leads to confrontation. Because it's eventually you open up that door that should have been left closed, and then it's everybody's running and screaming, and we'll see who survives the sundown. So so there are definitely elements of that in aside from Call of Cthulhu, basically any sort of investigation type model. So I think even the Christmas Langbar adventure I wrote, I think, is based on that model as well. So
yes, it was.
So since it is the start of the spooky season, here we are on the cusp of October. Bob, I'm going to have to get favorite horror media. Be it you can give me one of like each, or you just like give me a movie, a book, or a RPG. So
well, gosh, I would have to go with. I'll go with favorite book, because there is an author of my acquaintance, and I reread one of his books when I can at Halloween. and that's Christopher Buehlman. His first novel was Those Across the River, which I have described as if To Kill a Mockingbird had been written by Poe.
Okay.
It is a very modern Gothic rural South story that I'm very, very fond of, and of course for something lighter I would go with Zelazny's A Night in the Lonesome October, which we're going to be covering at the end of the month on the Sanctum Reading Room, which is always worth rereading. What about you?
Oh God, I did. I'm worse because I never have a favorite. I'm always
Gentle Ben's Revenge.
You know what? It's always like what am I in the mood for right now? So you know so I will say I will give my top 2 favorite horror movies because I've mentioned this before online, but it's been a while. So top 2 favorite horror movies of all time is Alien, the original Alien. And my number 1 is not Frank and Chicken Judge Jen. It is the original The Haunting.
Oh,
I love that movie because there is one special effect and it's creepy as all hell. So not the one you want to talk about, not the remake with Catherine Zeta-Jones and
no, those originals,
the original black and white. So but you mentioned Sanctum Sanctorum, which is this little podcast you have, and I understand that you have a guest coming on later this week.
We do. We have a special show this Saturday. It's going to be 4 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. So I think that puts it at like 8 o'clock Universal Daylight Time for our friends over in Europe. But since the last living Appendix N author, Michael Moorcock, has seen fit to grace us with a new Elric novel coming out in December, we are having him on for a special show where we'll be interviewing him, talking to him about the new book, and he'll also be taking questions from the audience. So if you've ever had a question for Michael Moorcock, now's your chance to ask. Although I should say that I have been reminded repeatedly, he is not, has never been, and probably will never be a gamer. So questions on that front will probably not go far. But yes, his stories and everything else, we're really looking forward to that show. We've got 90 minutes with Michael Moorcock on Saturday.
All right. Well, you can ask him for me if he has any plans on reuniting to do more with Hawkwind.
Well, I know he's already got 2 books lined up for publication after the Elric book. So maybe. Here's hoping.
No, I meant the band Hawkwind, not
Oh yes, Hawkwind, not Hawkmoon. Yeah, sorry.
Easy to get them messed up.
I think he's moved on. He had a different musical project that he'd been working on more recently. I can't remember the name of it, but yeah. So we might get some more music out of him. We'll ask him for you.
We'll see. So. All right. So any besides that, any final words of advice or anything you have to share with the audience there, Bob?
Yes. Pay attention to your weathermen, and when they say get ready, hold on tight.
All right. Wise words from south of the Florida border. There we go. All right, folks. We're going to take a quick break, and I will be back with kind of some updates about what's going on. And Bob, thanks again for coming on. So we'll be right back. Hey everybody, I hope you've had fun here. We've had some very special guests come on and talk about very special stuff. But as you know, we got to get out of here by the time the clock strikes 10 here on the East Coast because I get tired. This is also why I don't have Brendan on the show, because he'd be asleep by now. All right. So just kind of updates on where some things are right now. As you know, of course, through watching the show, we're going to have in stores this month, of course, going to be The Hunt for the Howling God, the Empire of the East Adventure #1, and Night of the Bog Beast DCC Horror #8. So if you go out there and pick them up, please do so. I think actually we didn't talk about it, but Bob, nod. Are you still planning on running Night of the Bog Beast? You can just nod to me. I can see you. Okay, all right, yeah. So all right, yeah, Bob Brinkman is actually going to be running the planned 2-part special of writing Night of the Bog Beast on Twitch channel. Great Babe, any word on the yearbook? Yes. The yearbook is actually it is as we promised, it is shipping this month. It probably in the next 2 or 3 weeks. So it's it's I don't know an exact ship date on it, but we said we were shipping it in October. So if you have pre-orders for it, it should be heading out to you. You should be getting notifications or it arriving in your mailbox, hopefully in the next couple of weeks. So finally, at long last, it took a while, but it is coming out. Speaking of things which are coming out, but yet unexpected things. Some of you backed the Tome of Adventure Volume 1 that we put out. We put out a couple months ago. We had an Indiegogo campaign for that. Collects the first 5 or 6 Dungeon Crawl classics, all in one attractive hardbound. Well, the very good news is that has arrived here in the United States. The bad news is, you ever go to get on a plane and and they just decide to randomly search you? Or is that just me? Anyway, so the U.S. Customs decided they were going to randomly search our big container to make sure it wasn't filled with cocaine and tigers. So right now, the stuff is here in the stuff is here is in the States. We just have to wait for the customs officers to go through and make sure everything's legit, and then we will be sending it along to the warehouses for distribution. So technically, it is here. It is here on the shores of the United States, and we'll be getting into the distribution chain as soon as possible. What happens to the cocaine and tigers? What happens is I can't report on that. Anyway, so yes, right. We search for the cocaine over there. So yes, so that is coming along the way. We are, as some of you have been following right now, we have Crypt of the Devilich. Remember that? We've got stuff back from the printers right now. We did some updates on that. Things are at long last are coming along as well. Also, Dying Earth is at the printers as well right now. So we're moving to fulfill those 2 Kickstarters, and I can probably say is that once one of those fill starters is out there and beginning to be fulfilled and people are like happily getting their hands on it, that is most likely when you will see Dungeon Denizens heading out there for Kickstarter. So I promise you more on that. It is still working out on that. Gate for the Bog Beast PDF. Usually the PDFs go online about a week, or either the wait, no. I think it's officially the same date they arrive in stores. So I would take a look around, probably around the 15th might be a good guess of when the Bog Beast PDF may be out. I don't know that for certain because it's troubling times. It's all distribution change at one hand, but it should be available like in a week or so. So Tim, what's up? So hopefully any work on the Dying Earth PDFs. Not that I know. I know we share. I think right now it's just getting around. It's just getting around everything finalized and making sure everything is right. Things are at the printers and all the rest is going on. It's again, as if you have backed it, you will get the information faster than you will get it from me right now, because I'm just dealing on the information I had up to about a week ago, and things are always changing. So there we go. Dungeon Denizens, probably the next one coming along, and hopefully that will be along soon. So that's basically to report what's going on with that. We're heading into November, believe it or not. So we've got a couple of stuff going on, and we will in December. We're going to have our traditional holiday adventure, and I'm going to have more about that probably next month or starting in December. Mr. Brendan LaSalle is working on this year's holiday adventure, which I particularly like because Brendan has set it in the Shutter Mountains. So there you go. Some people have actually play tested it, so I hope you've enjoyed it. I've heard nothing but good stuff about it. So that is going to be coming out. So look forward to in the holiday season. So that about sums it up. That's kind of what's going on right now, and I will be back in roughly a month, the first Monday of November, and we'll have more information and more updates at that time. So thank you very much for tuning in to the Maw of Mike, the first Maw of Mike of the fall season, and I hope you've enjoyed it, and I hope you've enjoyed the guests, and hopefully a Twitch holiday special. That was fun. Who knows? I don't know. right now, Mr. Brendan LaSalle and I are talking, and we're pestering Elena, trying to find a window. So there might be a Halloween horror special from Brendan and I in a couple weeks. But more about that when we figure out what's going on. So I also have to figure out when I can keep Brendan up long enough to kind of do that again. So stuff is in the works, and I appreciate your continued effort, and the wonderful fan booth in costume is being discussed. Skunkworks, all right. It's just, it's just difficult to twitch, with a big thing over your mouth or all the time or everything, as you can ask kidnapped victims everywhere. So on that on that bit of advice, I will bid you adieu for October. I will see you in about a month, and who knows? All right. So thanks so much, everybody. Be safe. And if I don't talk to you before, have a wonderful Halloween season for those of you in the part of the world that celebrates Halloween, which seems to be getting further and further every year, much like Christmas. So, all right. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Elena. Thank you, my special guest. And I am out of here. Until I'm back, stay awesome. Okay.